So, without wasting any more time, I would like to move to our second and final speaker. I'm informed that Mr. Chico Amadi couldn't make it, he's not around. So we have to move on to the next speaker, the African elder. You know, personally, I'll go somewhere with a pen and piece of paper, start just writing notes. So, ladies and gentlemen, in 3, 2, 1, let's give it up for Mr. Herman Bigham.
Yes. I am so pleased to be here to be able to honor my son and meet his original father. I have a habit of finding and seeking out and appreciating wisdom. And wisdom can come as a Baba who's aged, and mine is 77, and it can come in the form of a young man. Oh, sorry. Come in the form of a young man. This young man I met several years ago at a major presentation, and he spoke before I did. And after he spoke, I was ready to sit down. I was like, now what's left to be said? Truly, it was amazing. I mean, and his clarity, his sense of who he was as an African man, I find unique here in Kenya. And it startled me. And I was like, the way he was steeped in history of our culture, I said, this brother here need to be, he need to be in the house of leadership here. And he and those here and those not here that are among us have to be the leaders of the future here. And I'm not talking about just entrepreneurship. And one of the things I got ultimately, he got a call from him and he said, Baba, I want you to write the foreword for the book. And I was, of course, honored. And we talked about the book first, then he sent me the draft. I started reading this draft, and I said to him, listen, entrepreneurship, but this is really about life skills. I mean, I was so moved as an elder to see someone of his age group to have the knowledge and the clarity about life. See, if you don't figure out life, you're not going to figure out entrepreneurship and nothing else. All right? Seriously. There are life skills, okay? And see, one of the things that is very disappointing to me about being here in Kenya, I've been traveling in Kenya, traveling back and forth for 14 years, living here for 5. I started traveling in Africa before most of you were born, back in 1977. And the Africa of that time, is not here. And we, as a people, have lost so much. And our values, values is all it is. I can tell you about all the things, quote unquote, that I've done, but it's really about values because it's how you use it. Like once my son, who's now about 28, said to me, Dad, you know so-and-so and so about competition? I said, son, his name is Ramesses. I said, Ramesses, what you need to understand is life is not about competition. That's the white man's nonsense. That is totally against who we are as Africans. Because we're a communal people, naturally and historically, and it worked for millennia. Got it? Okay? So now, that has to do with sharing. Stephen spoke about sculpture, African sculpture. One of the reasons I got involved with African traditional sculptural material is not just because of the beauty and craftsmanship, but it's about the message that it was created to provide to us. all right? See, traditionally, African sculpture, some of its primary purposes was spiritual. The others were social guidance, okay? Guidance on how to live, how to work with each other, how to be able to have success as a group, not this capitalist nonsense, okay? You hopefully will learn, if you haven't, what real values are, and there are values as Africans, okay? And when we get back to a place of knowing who we are in the world, what we've done historically, and what our capacity is, we'll be grown up. See, PhDs don't grow you up. Masters don't grow you up. What grows you up is inside knowing who you are and what you're a part of, and who you're a part of. See, you don't make it as an individual in the world, okay? The Chinese, look at the Chinese. The Chinese, 40 years ago, okay, were considered, quote, by Europeans, a second-class, third-class people, okay? Now, same thing with the Japanese before them. They used to laugh at the things that the Japanese and Chinese made. They used to say, oh, this must be made in Japan. Now, when they talk about made in Japan, it's different, okay? Because these people had worked through their culture, maintained their values, and rose up in no time, okay? So now, I'll give you an example. With the meeting in which we met, I was supposed to start my speech by saying X. But the ancestors told me, no. I got something else for you. They said to me, no, you're going to ask the question. Now, and the question got to be, there was 250 students, okay, considered the brightest and most advanced and most articulate, and those who show the greatest promise to be leaders in Africa. So these young people, men and women, were from all over Africa. I asked them a question to the audience. I said, tell me, who could name, raise your hands, who could name 2 Africans who have invented or created something or have provided in a way that has changed and supported a global humanity? Inventors, could have been musicians, it could have been a lot of, okay, so we didn't close down the area. Do you know out of the 250 people who I asked, because what I was really asking them is, who are you mentoring yourself after? Brother like him? Or someone like Sheikh Anta Diop? Okay? Someone like the real McCoy, Elijah McCoy? In other words, I was asking them, you're bright, no doubt, but who do you see yourself being able to be? Based on who we as Africans have done, things we have done in the world. Do you know 3 hands went up, 2 of which had no answer. The third one was a person from Jamaica who had an answer, okay? Now, this ain't physics, okay? So I went to the university here, spoke with the director of, I say the university here, Nairobi University, because I said, well, you know, I'm an elder, and back home when I did, I mentored and taught, and back in here, by the way, teaching is universal, okay? So, I said, I want to go there and meet the director of African Studies, met him, and others since I've been here, and the change in him in terms of how he sees himself in the world and the things he's doing is amazing in 2 years. And it's because of history and culture. Because, like he said to me earlier today, he says, you know that expression, the real McCoy? I said, yeah. I said, yes, absolutely. Okay, how many people here have heard the expression, the real McCoy? I want the real McCoy. I don't want the fake. I don't want the dumbing down Chinese version. Do you know the expression? Okay, you need to know the expression. This man, McCoy, was an African from America who had over 50 inventions. His invention was one of the primary movers of industrialization of the country of the U.S. and the world. You got to know about your people. If you don't know about your people, like people think that I got a degree. You are a degree, what you need is something inside. Because the degree ain't going to carry it. Because when you deal in this world, you're dealing with white folks and Chinese, okay? These people believe that we are inferior. And if you don't know no better, that's how they treat you. Okay? So now, when you know better, they stand back and they get behind you. Because they will know and understand that you know who you are and what you and your people have brought to the world. Okay? So now that's why that brother's important to me. And when I read his book, oh my God, I said to him, you know, this is just not about business and entrepreneurship. And trust me, I'm heavily into so-called entrepreneurship. In 3.5 years, that young man, his play brother, myself, we have invented, produced, created, developed 14 different products that are patented. Okay? In Kenya and in the U.S. All right? I came here to do that. You know, meaning, as an African, I came here to Africa to be able to have that kind of impact. All right? And to leave with you the sense of capacity and impact that you can have, but you've got to know your culture and your history. If not, 7 degrees, you're still a small boy inside. Okay? So don't go for the degrees. Go for the knowledge and the degrees. Go for the culture. See, because if you don't, that's what, let me give you an example real quick. Daniel will testify. Daniel and myself used to be on the road a lot marketing various products. We would go to Toyota. I would go, in this case, visit the managing director, sister there. I would go to major textile plants. Do you know when they have anyone here been into Toyota, been over to Toyota's, what's that location we call it? You know? Yeah. Right. Anyway, their corporate office, when you walk into corporate office, walk through the door, turn to the left, you know what you see? Culture. Japanese culture. Meaning, they have a display of their culture material out front in the lobby. You know why? Because they're proud of it. They know the roots of it. They know that's the foundation for their future. Okay? Same thing went to a major textile firm. They had a whole section when you walk in, which is a room that honors Buddha. Okay? Now, why? Because they understand the importance of culture. Culture is values. If you don't have values, you got Kenya. You got the politics of Kenya because you don't have values. I'm going to say this last. I grew up in my home with Africans, continental Africans living in my home. And the one thing I saw so quickly was they had, even though they would smoke, They would go sleep and drink and do stuff. You know, there's certain things they wouldn't do. Why? Culture. Because the culture had taught them, I'm not going to embarrass my father. I'm not going to embarrass my auntie. That's what we had. Now, in Kenya, you got people who are robbing the country, going to church, and getting standing ovations. That's madness. That's because we lost our culture. Get it back. I share.
Thank you.